Okay, so we start with the studying in the UK, which is outline where you have selected your choosing three university courses and explain how this relates to your previous academic or professional experience and your plans for the future. Please do not duplicate the information you have entered to your work experience and education. So Elizabeth, how was that how they stated it, or there was a twist to yours?
Okay, so I was asked, I don't know, I feel like my interview was very peculiar, just saying. But I was asked two questions for this question. So I have an accounting background, right? Which means I did my BS in accounting, but I was going to do my master's in international development. So the first question that I was asked was, you have an accounting background, you studied accounting for your BSc. So why are you going to study international development? That was my first question. So that question was simply just me trying to prove to them why I wanted to study the course I wanted to study. So to answer the question, I talked about my work experience. I talked about the fact that I'd worked in the development sector for the past 8 years, managing different projects focused on sexual reproductive health and rights, gender-based violence, basically the areas in which I'm focused on that I already put in my essay, right? And then I talked about the challenges that I was already facing in terms of my career growth and career development, which is what one of the things that Chevening is, really interested in. Like they want to see how they are able to support your career growth, and career development. So I thought about the fact that although I have quite, a vast number of years of experience in the development sector, however, I haven't been able to progress in my career in taking up more high level jobs because I don't have an academic qualification in the international development sector. And that's one of the major reasons why I actually want to do my master's in international, development, because by doing this, I'll be able to take up bigger roles within larger corporations or larger organizations, and I'll be able to scale up the impact of my work from not just Nigeria, but to the global scene or to the global sector. So that was like the first question. And then the second question was now the normal question on, tell us why you chose the course, tell us why you chose the three schools that you are going to do your master's in. So I think for this question, Jeanette said quite a lot. I think people were here when Jeanette was talking. You need to give information that other people do not know. You need to give information that is not readily available or accessible. Information that shows that you have actually done your research on the schools that you want to go and do your master's in. And so giving information like your school is the top 20, top 30, like nobody cares about that information, because all the schools in the UK, they are all top leading universities in the UK. So that information there's nothing spectacular about that information, right? Or because, the education system in the UK is better than the education system in Nigeria. Like, hello, everybody knows that. So that's like generic information or a generic response. So you have to give information that is unique to your own school. So the advice or what I would give or what I would say from my own experience is go and do research on your school, do research on your course, do research on your department. So there are information you will get to find about your school. There are information that you get to find about your course, and there are information you get to find about your department. So I'll give an example. One of the things I said in my interview about one of the schools I chose, which was the University of Birmingham, where I finally did my master's, was my school offered work-based dissertation. What that simply means is that instead of you doing a regular dissertation, you have the option of going to work in an organization for a period of time, and then from your work within that organization, you now do your dissertation, which is more like findings from that project that you managed within that organization. So what that does for you is it allows you gather, hands-on practical experience. It enables you also apply some of the theories you've learned in class within that organization. It contributes to your career development and career growth. And at the same time, you get to learn, acquire skills, right? New knowledge, best practices that you can apply back home in your own country when you return back to Nigeria in the projects that you're already doing. So that was one of the things I talked about. Another thing I know I spoke a lot about was the fact that I also looked at my lecturers, right? People that were going to teach me. Interestingly, one of the lecturers I mentioned during my interview actually taught me in the University of Birmingham. So I did my research and found out that this particular lecturer has published series of papers on conflict and development. And conflict and development, with the recent happenings in Nigeria, the Boko Haram crisis, the EndSARS and all of that, there's a lot of issues around conflict. And it was one of the areas I really wanted to explore and see how I can, integrate that into my current work in Nigeria. So I talked about the fact that I was looking forward to, learning from this particular lecturer. I mentioned her name, and I talked about the research paper that I was particularly interested in and the module that she was going to be teaching, and how, the things I was going to learn from that module, right, was going to be helpful in my work back home in Nigeria, right? Another thing that I would say you can also look at is your department, unique things to your department. So in one of the schools I put as my schools I wanted to study, there's this program they offer. It's called the Arts. I can't remember the full name now, but it's something on arts. So basically, it's just like a summer program where you go and learn how to use arts for development. How you use arts as a tool to address development issues. I think when I saw that, I was like, blew my mind away. Like, this is amazing. I don't think I've seen this in a lot of schools or even in any school. And I was like, that's something I'm really looking forward to. Like, if I get to go to the school, I would definitely apply for the summer program. Particularly in the summer program, I look at how, I can learn how arts can be used to solve development issues, and definitely use that knowledge when I come back to Nigeria. So I think I've said quite a lot. I think I'll stop here. But basically, I'm just saying, look at things that are very particular. You can look at, maybe does your school have like a conference or a summit, like a major summit or a major conference? For instance, let me give you an example. During my set, Manchester was where the One Young World Summit took place, right? And that was in Manchester. So imagine if my school, maybe one of the schools I put in my application was I wanted to go to the University of Manchester. One of the things I would say is that I am looking forward to going to the University of Manchester to study the course I'm studying, especially if it's a development course, because my school is going to be hosting the One Young World Summit. You know what that means? They're going to be bringing dignitaries, development practitioners, young people, media, different categories of stakeholders to your school. And you get access to all of these people. You'll be able to network, you'll be able to, learn some of the best practices that are happening across the world. And you'll be able to, use these things to better your work back home in Nigeria. So look for things that are unique to your school, will make your school stand out, or are even unique to your course. Like the example Janet gave, the fact that they had a laboratory in that school that you can't find in any other school in the UK. That's something that is unique, right, to your school. So look for those kind of information. And when you're answering the question, please, the same way you answer the question in your essay, your first university and the course, your second university and the course, your third university and the course, give the three of them ample time. One last thing I would say, please go and read the Chevening annual reports. There's always a lot of information you can sieve out from there. And I'll give a practical example of how I use that information. During the last annual report before my sets, there was a particular person, a Chevening alumnus, who studied the same course I wanted to study in the school I ended up studying in, which is University of Birmingham. And this person was featured in the annual report as one of the top 3 alumnus of that year because of the project or the work he did during the COVID-19 pandemic. And I mentioned his name, mentioned his country, and I didn't mention the fact that, going through the annual report, I got to see that this particular person was an alumnus from this country, was recognized for his work in addressing the COVID-19 pandemic in the project area of ABCXYZ. And this is an area where I'm currently working in. And definitely, I want to also go to this school because if you can train young leaders like this, I also want to become a young leader like this tomorrow. So basically, just looking at how you can use information as available to put yourself in a very good, to say yourself, like put yourself in a very good position. Like, by the time you're done with your interview, they shouldn't have any doubts in their minds that you should get the scholarship. So I'll stop here.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth, for sharing that insight. And just as she said, if you mention specific unique things, they know that you know that school and you want to be in that school. And she have told you various ways you can use to, like, don't say my school is outstanding. Every UK university is outstanding. So don't say the lecturer, mention the name of the lecturer, mention that research area to say lecturer ABC is working on cancer and I'm interested in cancer. So by working with this person on cancer, your school also have different research group. Go and read your website. See, go and read your university website, from the beginning to the end. Open all the pages. You will see unique things and different things that when you mention that someone else will not mention, they'll say, oh, this person is saying something new and let's pick this person. So don't be generic. Always be unique. Look out for unique things and unique ideas. So I'll go to the last question, which Joseph will answer. Then before I start reading a question from the chat box and other unpopular questions, because some people started dropping them. Sometimes they might ask questions in different ways that you could answer. So Joseph, hope you are ready. And the last question is question 4, which is about the career plan that says Chevening is looking for individuals who have a clear post-study career plan. Please highlight your clear post-study plans upon returning home and your longer-term career goals. So you may wish to consider how this relates to what the UK government is doing in your country. So for Joseph, I don't know if the people in your panel read the question to you word for word or they added a tweak to it. So people, watch the recording, like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Joseph, where are you?
Okay, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. And thank you, Elizabeth, for hitting it as regards to the choice of your school and course and all. You really nailed it, and I like that part. As regards to the career plan, this part requires a lot of self-introspection. A lot of self-introspection. This is a time for you need to actually have a quiet time and think of what you intend doing. It's called post-Chevening plans, which can be further divided into the short-term, mid-term, and long-term. But however, before you divide it into short-term, mid-term, long-term, depending on the duration and what you intend doing, you should understand that you must tie it with your course of study and alongside with what the UK government is doing in your country. I repeat myself, your course of study, what you're studying, because you not, for example, you're studying gender equality, and you are telling the interview panel that once you're done with your Chevening Scholarship, you will actually be a sports agent. You have it 0/10, 0/10. So ensure you understand that anything you are telling them you're going to be doing within your career plan should be in line with what you're studying, 1, and 2 is with the area, what the UK government is currently doing in your country. And you need a lot of research. After your self-introspection, going through yourself, taking time to think about what you intend doing after Chevening Scholarship, you actually need to make a research and now come back to actually tie the whole informations together. Now, after studying or after actually studying in the UK under the umbrella of Chevening Scholarship, you are expected to return back to your country. It is compulsory, and it is compulsory, it's an obligation you owe Chevening. And once you return back, you'll be expected to actually do everything you expected. You actually, wrote down your essay. Now, your career path, I will actually divide it into the short term, which is from when you are done with your studies and you're back, maybe 1 to 5 years after studies. Then your mid-term, which is maybe 5 to 10 years. Then your long term, which is 10 years above. Now, your short term, studying water engineering in Brunel University, London. What I did was I took up my time to say, okay, I am done. Maybe let me take for hypothetical case. I am done with my studies in Brunel University and I'm back in Nigeria now. What am I going to do? Am I going to actually, Am I going to actually volunteer with an organization? Am I going to continue with where I was working when I left? So what I did was to actually say within the first to 5 years, I will continue my job role with my organization in the capacity of a project engineer, project monitoring engineer. And within these 1 to 5 years, it's going to actually give me an opportunity to actually, gain a lot of experience, gain a lot of resources, and also alongside the networks I have garnered while I was in the UK studying, I will also start a volunteering organization. So with the resources I'm going to garner while working with my organization alongside the networks I'm going to actually garner while studying in the UK is going to help me push and drive the volunteering organization, which I am going, no, not the volunteering organization, apologies, an NGO, which I'm going to actually establish. So this goes, this first to 5 years, which is your short term, must be in line with what the UK government is doing and what you're studying. Now, one of the area of impact of UK government in line with what I'm studying in Nigeria is called this sanitation and hygiene project, sanitation, water and hygiene, known as the SHWAN project. So this project currently have what we call SHWAN phase 2. Now, within my period, in my short term, I'm going to actually leverage on the skills I'm going to garner while working with my organization and also my NGO to actually expand this project from SHWAN phase 2 to phase 3, which is my short-term goal. Then within my mid-term goal, with the skills I have garnered while working with my organization, which is from 5 years to 10 years, I'm going to actually take a position upward with Water Aid International as maybe as the project engineer, where I'll actually and drive policies as regards to sanitation and hygiene and others. Now, in these 1 to 5 years, I will also come up with a project known as the 55WP project. The 55WP project means 5 minutes, 5 gallon water project. Of times children, women, and the elderly walk to fetch water. That's walk to fetch water. What that implies is I'm going to solve a problem of water scarcity, water availability, and quantity. In my short term, I've connected the dots. I've connected what I'm going to do to them. Then within this period, if you check, all these I intend doing, my NGOs and all are related to what I am studying and also in line with what the UK government is doing in my country. Now, some people will say your career plans should be specific, should be measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. Now, there's no way you can say within your short term you want to be a minister of water resources. It's not possible because you cannot just become a minister of water resources by just coming out from the UK after studies within the span of 1 to 5 years without accomplishing anything, without doing anything, and you want to become a minister of water resources. So you have to be specific what you want to get. Measurable means you have to quantify and know the impact capacity of your project, what you want to do, be it your short term, mid term, or your long term. Then achievable, is it realistic? Is it something that, for example, you want to be a minister in the next 10 years? It's reasonable. Yes, it's possible. But when you say you want to be a minister within the next 2 years, is it possible? What have you done? How do you intend doing that? It is not achievable. Is it relevant? Is it relevant in the sense that, is it solving a problem now? Is it in line with the problem or a particular challenge or in demand with what is happening now? For example, we have issues in Nigeria as regards to flood issues. And if you say you're coming up with a flood project, or you're coming up with sustainable urban design systems that can help reduce runoff in the society, it's going to help attenuate the issue of flood. So I think it should be relevant, and also it should be time bound. The time frame you want to achieve should also be taken into consideration, which is the SMART approach almost everyone wants to use. So the long term can be for 5 to 10 years. Then you can now actually enlist things you want to do within the long term. Now, Chevening would always want you to think big. It will always want you to actually tell them you want to be a minister. Please don't be afraid to, dream high. Don't be afraid to be someone who wants to get to the sky. You have to tell them that you want to be a minister, you want to be a president, you want to be an international renowned journalist, engineer, or anything you want to be. So your long term is a time for you to tell them that you want to get there. If you check, we have the likes of president. If you check within the global Chevening network, we have the likes of Carlos Alvarado, who also happens to be the president of Costa Rica. He was at the University of Sussex. Now he was once the president of Costa Rica. So it's part of his long-term goal, and he achieved it. So Chevening wants you to think big, wants you to tell them you want to be the president of Nigeria in the next, in 2080. You want to be the next minister of water resources, minister of health. That is the point where you need to hit it. But it will be better you hit it you hit it with points. You can't say you were studying, for example, theater arts at the Brunel University, and you say you want to be a minister of health. It's not in line. So these are the things they look at. I was asked, Dr. Mustafa was like, Joseph, we want to know something. Dr. Mustafa happens to be the Nigerian deputy president of Nigerian Chevening alumni. She was part of my panel. She said, Joe, I want you to tell me something that once we see you, we will know that this is you. She just wanted to check my consistency. So I told her, I want to be the Minister of Water Resources in 10 years' time. That is 10 years' time. She said, hey, even Katrola Liang, who happens to be the British High Commissioner to Nigeria, was in my panel. She was the head of my panel, alongside Mr. Wale. And Katrola Liang was like, God, Joe, you want to be the Minister of Water Resources? I said, yes, I'm studying water engineering, and I want to head the Water Resources Ministry, where I can influence policies, I can come up with novel projects, I can, initiate a lot of projects that would actually transform the water industry, water resources industry. I will even influence the water resources bill that's going on, and so many other things. So within your short term, your mid-term, your long term, your ability to make use, leverage on the SMART approach is very important. And also connect all of them. And before you start writing them, take your time, think about what you want to do after Chevening. Make sure they are in line with what the UK government is doing in your country, in line with what you're studying, because they will want to check your consistency. If you're not consistent, you're off. Elizabeth, I think it was Elizabeth that spoke initially, she mentioned that she was actually studying something not related to what she did in her undergraduate line. That's where it's a little bit difficult, because you need to actually give them reasons why you want to transition from what you studied in your undergraduate level to what you want to study. So those of you that have that problem, you need to actually connect the dots very well. If you can take out your time from your workplace for like 2 weeks, it's a sacrifice. Take out time, take unpaid leave if it's possible. If they are not giving you leave, you can take unpaid leave. Take out unpaid leave, take your time, read your essays, soak yourself in this essay, be confident, and also ensure that when you are entering the interview room, don't see them as your friends. I'm hitting on this, it's very important. See them as your enemies so that you can do well. Once you do well, you end up becoming their friends. See them as your enemies, because once you see your enemies, you always want to actually shock your enemies, because they will want to make you comfortable. So all I'm saying is ensure that you tie your short-term goal, your mid-term goal, and your long-term goal, and ensure there's consistency. Ensure that they are in line with what UK government is doing and also what you are studying. If these things lacks, time frame, make sure it's specific, it's measurable, and so on with the SMART acronym, I assure you will achieve it. Thank you. Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Joseph, for that. I just want to say something before I start taking questions. So don't be afraid, like if you are trying to study a new course and that's not what you did for your undergrad, I'll use myself as an example. And one thing about the UK university I like is that they allow you flexibility. So you can study arts during your undergrad, you want to do science or something else in your master's, but if you're able to like explain to them why they will give you admission. I have a science background, but my master's now is something in social science. So what did I do to show transitioning? Even when I was in school doing science, I already had interest in policy and things like that. I was already working in that area. So I had to like give them the reason why I took that decision from switching from science to want to do a master's in social science. Evidence was there. Ever since I left school from my NYSC to date, I've been working in the field of development. So all my expertise, I don't even have anything to do with science. I've never worked in science. So them seeing those things, and I've done a lot of fellowship programs and even taking courses. Take a course on Coursera is free. Those kind of things can help you. That when you put forth your application, because I am on the Commonwealth Scholarship now, I asked them in my school that, oh, how did you people select? They were like, oh, it's even the lecturer that put my name forward, because that's how Commonwealth shares scholarship. Imagine professors in the field putting my name for someone who doesn't have a degree in BSc. They're saying that for what stood me out was experience. So don't be afraid to like switch. If you are good, you are good. They will give it to you. I just want to clear that point, because Joseph was trying to say it was kind of difficult. Don't worry, you'll be all right. Just follow the point that they've been saying, and I think it will be helpful for you. So I want to start answering question from the chat box. So Elizabeth, because I know you kind of said your question was not asked straight, because someone is asking a question of, tell us about a time where you made an unpopular decision. How best can one respond to such a question? Okay.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, so I think, yeah, you know, as I said, the interview questions are sometimes very unpredictable. Interestingly, during my Chevening interview, I wasn't asked the fourth question, the question on your career plans. They didn't ask me that question. So I'm just saying that, you know, have a very open mind. But the most important thing is, you know, read your essay, because the questions they ask you most times have to do with your essay. So you saw those general questions that they ask, like, how will you balance your academics and school? How would you cope in the UK while doing your master's? They would even ask questions like, how will you make the most out of the Chevening community? Those are some of the questions I saw from like previous scholars. I remember when I was prepping for my own interview, but I mean, I prepped well for those questions, but I didn't get those questions. So I'm just saying, have a very open mind to the questions that they would ask you. So for this particular question that the person asks, they're just simply trying to, I think when you're asked a question, that's why I said something, that when the interviewer asks you a question, please don't be in a hurry to respond. Like, it's not tempo run. There's no nobody will give you an award for first to answer question, right? So please don't be in a hurry to answer your question. Take at least a second or a few seconds to understand the question that they're asking you. That's one. The second thing is, if you don't understand the question, please, I beg you, tell the interviewer, excuse me, can you please repeat the question again? Or what you can do is you can repeat the question, right? And then ask, is this what you're referring to? Just so that you and the interviewer are on the same page, and there will be no story of when there's a how will I put it down, miscommunication between the interviewee and the interviewer. So you need to be very clear on the question. Then the second thing is, ask yourself, what are they trying to figure out from this question? The trick I use is, Chevening is always looking at 4 things: leadership, networking, impact, and there's one more thing: leadership, networking, impact, and career. Yes, those 4 things. So every question they ask you, they are trying to get you to show either of these 4 things, right? Now, if you look at this question that says, tell us about a time when you made an unpopular decision, this question is testing you on leadership. That's simply what the question is testing you on. They want to see a time where you made a mistake, because they believe that as leaders, there are times where you face challenges, there are times where you make mistakes, right? So what you simply do is you talk about a time, use the STAR approach. Talk about a time, talk about the situation, what you were doing, talk about, the things you did in that project, and then talk about a mistake that you made. I'll give you an example. There was a particular project that I did, that I managed for UNFPA in Osun State. It was on FGM abandonment, right? And I was the lead on that project. I literally managed everything from start to finish. But there was one thing that I realized, and I realized it during implementation. It was the fact that we made provisions for the participants, which were, we had 10 girls from 20 schools, so 200 girls. So throughout the planning phase, we made every provision in terms of refreshments, souvenirs, materials, like name it, for the participants. But we did not make any provision for the teachers. And when the project was going on, right, of course, the teachers were upset because they are the ones who bring the students to the program. And many of the teachers do this out of their, work time. They're not paid for it because, it's not part of their job responsibilities in the school. So it's more like an extra burden that they are carrying, and you now get to the event or to the program, a 2 days program, and realize that no provisions was made for you. Right. And what it just simply meant was that if we were not able to convince these teachers as to why they should come, the students will not come the following day. Project will not hold. It will be a failure. It will not work. Right. And so I had to own up, I had to take responsibility for that mistake. Right. I had to immediately call the teachers together to a corner and take responsibility. I didn't blame anybody. I apologized, that this is something that, I am supposed to do, but I didn't do it. Apologized for it, and I ensured that for the second day of the training that we provided at least certain things that I knew we could still provide, like refreshments, for instance, even though we couldn't get them, like some of the souvenirs and other things. But then for the other things I knew that we could salvage within that situation, I made sure that we were able to provide that, and I apologized for that happening. That is a leader. A leader is not somebody who, when you make a mistake, you throw the blame to your team members, you throw them under the bus, or you try to look for excuses upon excuses to justify. You look at, as a leader, you apologize for whatever it is that happened and look at how you can salvage the situation. So you should, crisis control. Like, no, what am I going to do? What do I need to do to make sure that this project is still a success, regardless of, the challenges that you're facing? So that's what, for my own personal experience, when it comes to unpopular questions, it's just simply unpopular things that happen to you, it's just simply testing your leadership skills and how you're able to manage situations when things don't go according to plan, or, when you make certain mistakes that you did not preempt or you didn't see happening, right? So that's simply, but always remember that you should always use the STAR approach and always ask yourself in this question, are they testing my leadership? Are they testing my networking? Are they testing my career plan? Are they testing how I'm able to make impact? Because as a Chevening scholar, you're going to the UK to come back to Nigeria to make impact in your community.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth, for that. So I'd like Jane to take this question. So someone is asking, if they ask the question of why Chevening and not any other scholarship, so how do you think someone can answer the question? Jane?
Yes, okay, so for that question, why Chevening and why not any other scholarship? Most times, if they ask that question, you might be tempted to just give a generic answer like, okay, Chevening is prestigious. Yes, everybody knows Chevening is very prestigious. Even the panel, they are aware of that. So when I was structuring an answer for that particular question, I said something like, in addition to being a very prestigious scholarship, one unique thing about Chevening is the community you get to belong. So in addition to having a fully funded master's scholarship, I'll be able to join a community, not just any community, a community of global leaders that are doing have making impact in different spaces in different countries. So if I'm to answer this question, or just go to look for a personal answer, not just something that you go just check online and get. So for instance, I think I saw an article online on the Chevening website that a scholar wrote about having confidence and about being beautiful in one's skin. How she had low self-esteem because she was black, and she always felt that because in her country then there was this stereotype of
Sorry, Janet, to cut you. I think your voice is low. Can you make it louder?
Okay, so can you hear me now? Is it better now?
Yes, it's better now.
Or it's still low?
No,
Okay,
it's better. Yeah.
So she, in the article, that scholar was talking about her experience, how she had low self-esteem, because of her color, she was dark skinned, and how in the culture or society most times they attribute beauty to being light skinned in most cases. But her mom was able to talk her out of it, and she became more confident in her skin. So I thought I was able to give an example of me going to the Chevening website and seeing this particular story, and how, for instance, I had some friends. A friend of mine introduced me to a particular brand that had bleaching products, and she was convincing me to get it, that to be good and to be nice. And I was even considering that until I came across that article on the Chevening website, and how that changed my mindset about my color and my skin, and I became very confident in my skin. In fact, I canceled the order for this product and I didn't use it. So I know this is a very small example, it's not like a very big example, but I told my panel that I was just prepared. I just got information. I was able to get this kind of influence by just preparing for a Chevening interview. So you could imagine the kind of impact that Chevening would have on me when I'm able to network and interact with other scholars during my program and after my program. So you should talk about the different Chevening or other scholarship. Also talk about the fact that as compared to other scholarship, why I love Chevening is the kind of flexibility it gives you. Most scholarships, like Commonwealth, for instance, or some other scholarships that are very good scholarships, we have specific courses that you have to apply to. But Chevening gives you an opportunity to pick any course you have in any university you want to go to in the UK. So that was another difference I kind of spotted between Chevening and other scholarships, that it gives you this flexibility to explore different course areas in the UK and pick a course that is linked to what you want to do in the future, regardless of the university or the sector. So I think I talked about that, and I talked about the other extracurricular activities to get attend as a Chevening scholar. So Chevening has a lot of activities. Go to the website, so many programs they have for scholars, conferences, leadership seminars, entrepreneurship programs. There are so many programs I attended a couple of them during my master's. So that was what I used to answer that question. I just gave those kind of examples. So you must not use the example, just look for a particular example that relates to you personally. So that story of someone talking about being confident as a Black lady and how that influenced my perception about the way I saw the color of my skin and everything. I use that to justify why I want to get Chevening, because I'll be in the midst of other scholars and global change makers in different sectors in different countries. To talk about that, what that is, talk about the prestige, still something to talk about how Chevening can help you achieve your career goal, and how as a Chevening scholar, you're like a partner with the government for the development in your country. So when you come up to the UK, you're able to tap into the Chevening alumni network to do projects and create more impact or expand on what you're doing in your home country currently. So that's just it. So general advice and tips for the scholarships. One thing I would advise everyone to do is, first of all, you have to dress smart. So you can't say you're a leader and you are someone that will bring change or create impact, or you want to lead and take up big spaces in Nigeria in the future, and then you just come and you're wearing maybe sandals, maybe you're not stuffed in, you just look somehow. And one thing about dressing well, it helps you improve your confidence level. So I bet you, for most people, when you get to the British High Commission, but I did my interview in Lagos, there's this tension that comes when you get to the place. I don't know if other scholars experienced it, but I did. I got to the journey and I could feel a bit tense. I felt a bit tense. And I checked other scholars that were waiting for their interview. And I saw one guy who was shaking. Like he was shaking actually. So I just tried to talk to them. I was trying to calm everybody down while we were waiting for the interview. And they were like, "Oh, how come you're so confident?" I was like, if you guys know how scared I am or how tense I am inside, I'm just trying to talk to cover up and reduce the tension I'm feeling. But I try to encourage them to get them out of their chairs and reduce it down. So you need to be calm and don't get tense. When you get into the High Commission, you see that some pictures on the wall that look so fancy, and it's like this is the day or this is the, just try to be calm. And when you get to the interview, they'll give you to the interview hall, they'll give you a glass of water and a cup to drink, and you have to drink if you want. And other scholars give us the advice that to drink that water. I don't know, but since that water has magic, so I'm going to give you that same advice. Please drink that water. So when I got there and I sat down and I drank the water, it felt as though the water was like medicine that helped me to just be calm. So in a way, I was a bit calm and I was more relaxed. And it happened that one of the alumni on my panel was actually I think I met her at the reception while I was waiting, and I thought she was there for the interview. Actually, I didn't know she would be on my panel, so I went to talk to her and I greeted her. I was like, "Oh, I'm looking for this interview," and I just told her my name and what I was doing and stuff. I didn't know she was going to be on my panel that day. So when I entered my panel and I saw her, I was like, "I'm pretty." So she was one as a part of the panel. So when you're there and you speak, greet them, smile, be friendly, because you don't know who in that place and how going to be. So it helped me relax. After I drank water, I became more calm. And I know he advised he talked earlier about seeing them as an enemy. If you know that would put tension in you, please just whatever you think works for you. What works for one person might not work for another person. So just anyhow you know you want to cope, that will make you feel less tense. Because when you're tense, most times you won't be able to say what you prepared or talk about what you've practiced. And mock interviews help. The more mock interviews you do, the more confident you'll be at your interview. From I think 2 weeks to my interview, or about a month to my interview, I did mock interviews almost every day. I would meet my colleagues at work. One of my colleagues that he got so tired of hearing my answers that at times when I wouldn't give me the answers, he would join me to say the answers. Another of my colleagues at times he wouldn't sleep up when I'm just saying, look at the mirror. Go in front of your mirror, look at yourself when you're talking. All this helps to boost your confidence. The more you talk about it, the more you practice your answers, the more confident you'll be, and the more you'll be able to do well that day. So don't be, I know it's very competitive. You know that it's very, very competitive at this point because you're competing with the best of all the aces that they've received. But still yet, believe in yourself because so far, God has brought you so far, and you have to pray and then believe that you will get to the end too. So try to practice, try to be confident, get to the venue on time so that you relax before the time of your interview. And like I said, drink that water, just relax. Anything that you know will make you relax. Because when you're more relaxed, you'll be able to answer the questions more. I was so calm at my interview that I think when my panel lead was walking me down out of the venue, we're just gisting actually. We're gisting on our way out of the hall downstairs. She was telling me places I should visit when I get to Scotland because I was going to my school in Scotland. And actually she was from Scotland. So that's why you don't have to lie. So when I talked about my university and everything, I think probably the way I pronounced my school, maybe I didn't pronounce it very well. She actually asked me to write the name of the school out, the name of the school on the paper and show her that she wasn't hearing it. I don't probably she was trying to check if I knew what I was saying and if I could pronounce what I was saying and if I could spell it out actually. So you don't have to lie. If you talk about places in the UK, you need to do your research. But most times they might know. I had a friend that talked about the project she had worked on. That was the part of a bigger body. She didn't know that the someone on the panel was actually the main lead for that project, and it was on her panel. So if she was lying about doing that project, for instance, that's how she would have flopped there. So it made it easy for her to talk about the project and to confirm that, oh, that's what happened, that's what she did at that project. So don't lie, because they'll research and then they'll check online for most of these things. And if you're lying, it will make sense. It will just give you a very bad impression. She didn't have a bad impression of you. Just say the truth, and I wish you the best in the interview.
Thank you very much, Janet, for that. Just to clear something, don't think about water. In mine, they didn't give me any water, so don't go that there might be water. I was expecting, everybody has said, oh, there'll be water. I didn't see any water. Okay.
That water was like magic.
Let me add something about my own experience. Because I was going to Brunel University to study water engineering. So when I got to the interview room, there was water was placed between the Nigerian flag and the British flag. So since I was going to study water engineering and it's there on my profile, I used the water to give an example. So you must do something that will make you stand out, something that the interview panel will not forget. You must do something unique. I use the water, just to, cool yourself, cool your temperature, make you relax and all. But remember, I still saw them as my enemies because they were looking for a way to fail me. So I told myself, you guys are my enemies even though you guys gave me water, you are my enemies. And that was what really helped me to prove to them that I am not your friend. After passing through the interview and succeeding, I can be your friend later. So at some point, and this part of, do you have any question for us, is very important. So the question they threw at me was, Joe, do you have any question? That was Mr. Wale. I said, yes, I have a question. I now referenced the area of impact of the UK government in the UK, which is the Sanitation, Hygiene and Water Project, known as SHWAN project. And when I was doing my research, I only saw SHWAN project phase 2. Now that SHWAN project phase 2 implies there's SHWAN project phase 1. So I was asking Katrola Liang alongside Mr. Wale and Dr. Mustafa, where is the phase 1 project? I can't see them because I want to understand, even though they are a failed project, I want to know why they failed so that I won't repeat the same mistake when I'm coming up with phase 3. So to my greatest surprise, none of them they weren't able to answer. They weren't able to point out anything about the phase 1. So that was when I knew that I was entering gradually. I was entering. So do something that will make you stand out. And I also went with the pictures of some of the projects I did in Lagos. I went with photos of some of the site investigation project I did in Lagos, and that really added to my marks. And when Katrola Liang saw women queuing to get water, she was like God. She became so emotional and was God. So these women, I say, yes, this is really happening. And I was even about crying because at some point she was like, you want to cry, Joe? Yes. I said, I want to cry because there are so many problems. So you need to be smart, about this whole thing. You don't need to be a professor to get this thing. You just need to use common sense, be sharp and be very instinctive. Don't apply what I call plus or minus approach. Don't take everything we tell you here, because even as a child, you cannot inherit everything from your father. You need to inherit some and expunge some and come up with your own. So don't take everything we tell you here, go back home, listen to us, subtract and add, come up with your own. Listen to yourself, be instinctive, follow your heart, and again, mock interview. You can never tell who is going to actually help you to achieve it. Do interview with your friends at work, at home, anywhere, your siblings and anyone. You can't tell. I had so many interviews with Precious then. I'm sorry I can say it. She really helped me. We had interviews and she was the one that, Joe, no, you're not getting it here. You are taking it too far. Bring it down. Come a little bit low. So that was when I understood that I had issues with one or two things. And at the end, I got the scholarship. So make sure because we have different views. So make sure you have mock interview. The more you go through interview sections, the more confident you are, and the more you realize your weakness. And again, the question about why Chevening, why not other scholarship, the implication of that question is comparison. He's trying to ask you, why are you not going for Commonwealth? Why Chevening? You are not going to tell him that Chevening is a popular scholarship or because of the full funded. No, Commonwealth is still offering full funded scholarship. You can recognize one Chevening alumni that has done great things, maybe related to your field or not related to your own field. Like I remember I answered that because of the accomplishment of the Chevening alumni. Accomplishment. And I gave an example of someone in my field and someone outside my field, particularly Carlos Alvarado, who happens to be the president of Costa Rica. I referenced him. I told him that these kind of things, that's one of the things that propelled me to apply for Chevening, and I really want to be the president of my country come someday. And also, I told them about the quality, quantity, and diversity of the Chevening alumni. That is what makes Chevening prestigious. It's not just saying the Chevening alumni is much. Just say about the quality in terms of their accomplishment, in terms of their diversity, professional diversity, And Chevening is, you are in one place, maybe you're in UK studying, but you are in almost all the whole country in the world, because Chevening is a global scholarship, while Commonwealth is just narrowed to the Commonwealth countries. So those things are the things that make, and be confident. Look into their eyes and talk to them. You must not be too brainy to get it. Look into their eyes, talk to them. You're not being rude. You're just being confident and you know what you're doing. And also to demonstrate that about the unpopular opinion, and it's all about trying to find out your way of being courageous and bold, taking risk. Because as a leader, you must encounter challenges, and those challenges won't make you to deviate from the norm or deviate from the policy of the organization. Because without an unpopular opinion, that is difficult for you to achieve development in a country. And that is the one problem with Vice President Osibajo. He is scared to come up with unpopular opinions because he feels that
we're not talking political here. Just focus on the question.
Go on, pressure.
I was saying this is not political class. Please just focus on.
Oh no! Give an example of popular comes up. It's there in an organization. Sometimes the policy of the organization.
I think my village people came for me today, like seriously, with all these things happening. Let me just give chance for Elizabeth to before I give chance to Elizabeth, please, I don't stop comparing Chevening and Commonwealth. I'm probably a Commonwealth scholar. So, and it's not as if one is better than the other. So it depends on what you want, what each person, you want and what you prefer. So go for your Chevening. If you still want to apply, okay, no, Chevening, come over. So just do whatever works for you. So Elizabeth, did they also give you water? Because I said Chevening did not give me water during my interview. Did they offer you water? And what tips do you have for participants?
Okay, thanks, Precious. So yes, I was offered water, but I didn't drink any water. I know that Joseph has said your interviewers are your enemies and all of that. But, one thing I just is that, I think Joseph also mentioned, them. That's one thing I want everybody here to take home is for them. And what that simply means is that there is no one single strategy as to how you ace your interviews are, but your confidence, what experience, right, is, of course, don't dress shabbishly, but please make sure you are comfortable it is you're wearing. Some people would not do makeup or do makeup, there's nothing like that. That's not the criteria for which they are going to use to give you the scholarship or not, right? So that's just one thing I wanted to put there. Make sure you're comfortable in whatever it is you're putting on. If you are somebody who, for instance, I am a fast talker, I talk very fast. So one of the things I had to do personally for myself was during my preps, when I was prepping for my interview, I had to learn how to talk, at a slower pace than I would usually do, right? So if you're somebody like me who talks really fast, because some of your interviewers are not, they're British, and when you talk really fast, it's hard for them to grasp what you're saying. So you probably also want to look at that. Another thing again, you probably want to also, look at is breath control. How you're able to control your breath when you're talking, so that you don't get to a point where you're panting or you're pacing because you're talking, and you get to a point where you're just like sighing and things like that. So you probably want to also look at that. And the only way you can know these things or even see these things, right, is when you prep. And one more thing I want to say, please and please do not be overconfident. You know, we keep saying confidence, confidence, confidence. Confidence is good, but overconfidence is a problem, because that is when you are arrogant. That is when you are proud. That is when you are, you know, you don't do the things you are supposed to do because you feel that, do you know who I am? I've gone to 20 fellowships. I have worked with the top organizations. Trust me, see, you will meet people that have done way more than you have done. And I know of people who have done quite a lot, and they go for the interviews and they don't scale through the interviews. And you'll be shocked. Like when you read their profiles, you'll be blown away. But they go to the interviews and they don't scale through it. So approach your interview as if you are a novice, as if you are somebody who has never gone for interview in your life before. Like this is your first interview that you're going for. That's how you should approach your interview. So you should prepare, prep, you know, do whatever it is that you want to do. Use mirror, use someone to do mock interview for you. Your family is there, use your siblings, let them ask you questions and respond to the questions. You know, let them give you feedback on what they think you did well or you didn't do well. These things are actually very, very important. And then, of course, please make sure you ask the interviewers a question. I think during my time, I didn't ask any complicated question. I just asked them, I said, when I get to the UK, what cultural shocks should I prepare for? That was my question. And you know, one of the things that when I think back on my interview was, my interview with my interviewers was very conversational, actually. It was as if I was having a conversation with them. So that's why I said that, you know, your interviews or the strategy that you use, you know, do use a strategy that you know you're comfortable with. Because if you go to your interview and you're not somebody who can, you know, like face somebody head on, right? And just do the normal Q&A, ask me question, I answer, ask me question, I answer, it's very possible that you will fall, because that's not the strategy that you are used to. That's not what you know how to do. But if you're somebody who is good, your strategy is you're good at using storytelling to, you know, to prove your point. You're somebody who knows how to, while you're answering the question, you're still having a conversation. And that's a strategy that works for you. Then by all means, please do that. You know, people have used that in the past and it has worked for them. So the most important thing is use a strategy that you are comfortable with, that you know works for you, as far as you are actually answering, you know, their question in whatever strategy that you are using. Please maintain eye contact. It's important. Try to also read the room. You know, one of the things I did, I remember then, was I was always looking, like, I'll look at the person asking me the question because I want to see their facial expression. Your body language tells a lot. So also pay attention to your body language. Please smile. Don't squeeze your face. Don't be frowning. I know you are tired. I know it's been a long journey. Driving application is literally a year. From the moment you start applying to when you get it, it's a year, 1 full year. So I understand it can be really tiring and stressful, you're tense and all of that, but please make sure it doesn't show on your face. I beg you, smile. Don't look like the world is coming to an end, you know. And again, I think one of the things I probably would encourage is try to also appreciate them. So if they ask you questions, so thank you for your question, you know, and go ahead to answer it. I mean, you're not going there to go and fight boxing. Like, I personally don't see it that way. Like, you're not going there to go and fight boxing. Just for me, I just look at it as they are human beings like me, you know. So kind of like look at it in that way or in that angle if you want to, right? I think the last thing I'll just simply say is that if you're a Christian, you're a Muslim or something, and you believe in the God factor, I mean, that's a personal, you know, value or a personal belief system. If it's something that you personally have a value or a belief system in that line, by all means. I remember when I entered my interview, I prayed before I entered, and I prayed after I came out. So if you're somebody who believes in God, or you believe in, you know, I believe, I'm a Christian and I believe in God, and I believe that whatever it is I do, I always put God in, you know, whatever it is that I do. So you can probably also want to adopt that. And then of course, please, everything that happens from the moment you enter into the embassy to the moment that you go out, please, it is all, look at it as like it's all part of your interview. From the moment you step into the embassy, so whoever it is you're conversing with, when they are taking you to your room, where they're going to ask you your questions, the person that will come and take you, you know, they would engage you in maybe some questions. Oh, hi, hello, you know, did you struggle getting here? What do you do? You know, is this your first time applying? To be courteous and answer their questions. You know, try to engage as much as you can. We meet other Chevening scholars, also try to engage with them. But just look at it as an entire process, right? Not just the interview itself, but every other thing that happens around the interview is also very, very important. You never can tell who would be on your panel and who would fight for you when you are no longer in that room. It could just be one person on that panel that will fight your matter and say, this person, we must give this person the scholarship. So, I wish everybody the very best, and hopefully you would all get good news at the end of the day. Thanks, Precious.
Thank you so much, everybody. And thank you, Joseph. Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you, Janet, for sharing your insights. So they've given you the tips and everything is left for you. And we wish you the very best. We want to hear that you got the scholarship. Come back and give us feedback. So thank you. Drop your comment, like, and subscribe. Bye. Thank you, everybody. Good night or good morning, afternoon.